I did something really foolish last winter, and today we're going to find out how bad it really is. So this behind me is a 300-gallon fire skid unit that I built a couple years ago that I could slip in the back of my truck and take care of any wildland fires or small starts that we have here on the homestead. So I did a whole video series on this and restored a bunch of stuff and used some new stuff and used some old stuff, but the problem is I forgot to drain the pump, and it froze and it's cracked the housing. Now this may be something that we can easily repair using some epoxy today, or even possibly welding it up, or it may be catastrophic. I don't know how bad the damage is. I filled it up, started up the pump just to do a pressure check to get everything ready, and it was blowing water out the side of the casing. So let's pull it apart, see how bad it is, and maybe, if we're lucky, we might be able to fix it for under $10. So this is the fire pump that I chose to use here. I bought this new. This is a WH20X. It's a Honda brand, meaning just because something says Honda on it doesn't always mean that it's Honda. If you want Honda quality throughout, you want to make sure that you insist that it's the whole, they make everything. And this is a factory Honda high pressure pump. It's not super high pressure. It's about 65 PSI, I believe, 2-inch in, 2-inch out, but adequate for a small fire suppression pump system. You can't go wrong. This is a wonderful pump. And it's such a shame to be so irresponsible as I was and to overlook this and to ruin a brand new piece like this. So I call Honda. This is the housing that's in question. So we have the engine here that's made it up to an impeller. I'm assuming. We'll have to look inside. I have never had it open, and this housing has been cracked because, the hydraulic natures of water. As it freezes, it expands, right? And it's got to go somewhere, and the casing broke. So is it a small crack? The water was coming out here, or is it a great big giant crack? That we're going to find out. So let's pull everything off here, pull it out, and see. I'm hoping to replace it because I called Honda, and just the replacement housing, it was close to $300, which is, it seems a little excessive to me, but what are you going to do? We're going to try to fix it, is what we're going to try to do. One of my very first jobs was working as an outboard mechanic apprentice for a Mercury outboard dealer. That was my after high school job, and so I'd go there and I would work on the small outboard engines from like the 2.2s up to the 50 horses, engines, rebuilding, all types of stuff. I was learning, of course I was being trained by a real mechanic. But that's when I first started buying, started buying Snap-on tools. I was aware with them. I grew up using them because my granddad did. He was a mechanic for Ford. But I began to appreciate them and see that they were worth the investment for me personally. I think it's for professionals that it is. And so, of course, I started working out of a toolbox like everyone else. The big roll-arounds, I've had several of them. I've got a big one over there. And I don't like working out of toolboxes, because unless you are a tech where you have to have tons and tons of tools and organization, a lot of specialty things, it's kind of a hassle. Because really the purpose of a toolbox is not so much convenience, I think, as, well, it is convenience, but as security. Because you can't, if you're working in a shop with lots of people, of course you can't leave $50,000, $60,000 worth of tools out, can you? But if you're just working out of your garage and just a handyman like myself, how much stuff do you really need? I mean, you can have the big toolbox where you can keep things and go and get specialty things that you use once in a while. But for most of us, we need 2 sets of wrenches, metric and standard, 2 sets of sockets, metric and standard, deep and shallow, some pliers, extensions, the things I have adapted it. This is from years and years and years of working into what works for me. I've got my screwdrivers on the side, I've got my sockets and extensions up here, maybe a couple specialty wrenches or ratcheting wrenches that I like to use, pliers, and of course my big full wrenches down below. So I'll bring you in closer and kind of show you how I have it organized. And I thought this video was going to be about fixing a pump. Well, how we get to talking, and this is what happens. So deep and shallow sockets. From a 1/4 inch up to 1 inch, that's a must-have. Of course, we got to have the hateful metric as well. Metric, because I have many things that have both. Some have metric, some have standard. So in America, you have to have both. So it's such an inconvenience. And then for this job, I won't keep my 1/4 inch drive stuff in here. That will stay in the toolbox. But I brought it out because in tight little areas, and this is low torque stuff. The 1/4 inch drive stuff's really nice because ratchets are small, and I've got You know, we can get the ones with the pivot head, and you know, it's just a convenience. It's not necessary. I could do everything with this. This is where you start, a 3/8 drive, 1/4 inch drive. You can go this. And the reason why some of these are missing is I've got some in the house working on some other things. A couple pair of pliers. This is one of my favorite things right here. An extension with a handle on it. Man, I liked it so well, I got one for the 1/4 inch too. This is the best thing because you can put a ratchet on it, right? But you can use it as a nut driver too. It's a wonderful. And here's the little one. Just love this one. Look at that. Isn't that nice? Oh, I love it. Extensions, various extensions, different things, of course, you know. But that's basically the layout. So here, over here, and I'm missing some screwdrivers here. Normally I have these all full, but I have things up in the house that I just made out of a piece of sheet metal, drilled some holes in it, hangs nice on the cart, and I can drop my tools in it. Here's 2 specialty tools that I can't live without. Maybe it's because I had a wrecking yard and I took so many things apart, but this is one of my favorite tools, the panel tool. The panel tool, this is the first video I ever made on the Wranglerstar channel, was reviewing this. I loved it so much that I wanted to share it with the world, make sure that everyone had one, but something to keep in your cargo pocket, on like if you wear Carhartts in the side pocket, for popping things, taking plugs loose, door panels. It's made for taking door panels off, but it's much more useful than that. Another one is this. This is another one I use for taking radiator hoses, just millions and millions of different things. And I also like these little guys. I don't have a lot of really specialty things, but these little hooks for taking out O-rings and doing small work, oh, it's so valuable. And then I color code, when I have all my screwdrivers, I color code the handles so that the green ones are the standard and the other ones a different color. They're the Phillips, just for quickness. And then we'll go down below and I'll show you. Nothing groundbreaking here, just 2 full sets of snap-on wrenches. We go from 8mm to 22mm. That covers about everything you need to cover. And then on the little ones here, 1/4 inch up to, what do I go up there? Inch and, what is that? Inch and 1/4. Inch and 1/4. You don't need to go up to that. You can go up to 1 inch is good for most people. Actually, 15/16 is good for most people. And I keep a snap-on air ratchet, which is the best there is. So let's dig in here. So this is where the water comes out the top. This is the outflow. We got, what, 13mm there? Take these loose. It's just have a couple peripheral items that we have to take off here, and then we can pull the main housing and see what's going on. Oh, this is an interesting story. So look at this. So this, my granddad always had fun with this, and I do too. Every time I go to a snap-on guy, because these snap-on ratchets, this was my granddad's. If you notice, if you know anything about tools, you know that this has got a knurled handle on it. It's got a textured handle on it. Granddad used it, but it's obviously snap-ons in the name. It's got the classic snap-on head. Interesting thing is that the rebuild for these, they're easy to rebuild. You take out those screws and drop in the new gears, is the exact same as the brand new ones. Here's a brand new one right there. But Granddad he liked snap-on tools, but he didn't like the handles. He felt that they were too slippery when his hand got greasy, and he was always dropping his ratchet. So what he did is he cut the handle off and welded on a handle off of I think it was like an SK or something, but he did such a good job on it that you can't see the seam there. And so whenever he would take it into the snap-on guy, to get the parts, to rebuild it or so, he'd show them, and they'd say, "Man, I've been doing this a long time. I've never seen one like that." And he'd tell him he made it. But I always thought that was a funny story. So I continued on with that tradition. And I still have fun with it. You can always stump a snap-on guy with that, though. There's not one of them around that has seen one of those before. As I say, it's the little things. You got to take pleasure where you can find it, right? Can I backpedal just a little bit? I misspoke when I said working out of a drawered toolbox is not efficient. That's not true at all. It was my business that I had before I did this, with the wrecking yard, and only working on just one model of car, that applied. It was a very specialized type of I guess, mechanic job. that allowed me to have everything I needed in one cart. Any of you guys that are real proper technicians are already probably have left a comment like you don't know what you're talking about, and you're right. Yeah, I want to preface that. So yeah, of course, if you're working on lots of different models, maybe lots of different manufacturers, of course, you got to have a big toolbox because there's a lot of specialty tools. So having a tool cart, that would just be foolish. So I want to clarify that. Okay, so all right, so we'll get this cross out of the way. So this piece here, this is the intake. This is where the water comes into the pump from the tank. We've only got 3 screws on it. Boy, I hope I don't have to buy a new housing. I just am so frustrated with myself to overlook something like that. Just so senseless to ruin a piece of good machinery and brand new. Just makes me mad in the face. All right, we'll get those guys out. We should be able to, okay, remember I tell you about the panel tool. Here we go, perfect example. Perfect example. Actually, it's actually not a very, maybe here. Look at that, yeah, of course. We got going on here, I don't think I've had this apart. I guess maybe I should have taken that off there. Boy, it's so hard to get that. Well, we can spin it out of the way. That's what we'll do. There we go. Use your brain, use your brain. Oh, it's a flapper. That's a flapper. I didn't even know that was in there. So this is it. Here, I'll show you why this is interesting. Those engineers at Honda are so clever. Look at that. Huh. So this is a weighted backflow preventer, rubber, and I put a foot valve in. I put one in the intake at the bottom so that you don't have to constantly prime your pump. So each time you shut off your pump, the water will run because of gravity or run down there back into the tank. And what happens? This will slam shut. Prevent that from happening. Keep your standpipe full of water, and just so you don't have to prime it, pre-prime or re-prime it every time. So you might ask, why don't you use that? You got that air ratchet there. You got a compressor and that air ratchet. Why don't you use that? Speed things along. I guess I used them for a long time, and I get tired of the noise, and I got to go put ear protection on or earplugs. And I mean, I'm not working on a flat rate. I'm not working against a clock here, so anymore. I just kind of typically prefer to just use a ratchet. That's a hard one to get to down there. I think we got it loose. There should be one more right here. Gonna have to use an extension. Get in there. Oh, I love those bendy extensions. Little things about Snap-on. I sound like a salesman here. I don't work for Snap-on or receive anything from them. But look at little things like putting knurling on a extension so you can twist it with your fingers. You can get a purchase. Really important when you got greasy hands. Kind of a funny thing about Honda. Honda being a Japanese brand, my granddad fought, well, he was in the Air Corps in World War II in Europe. And, but, the Allied that were against the Japanese, and they were the enemy of the time and all that. So, when he came back, he like many soldiers, he just did not have a high opinion of Japan. And that's when USA made were so good. Everything that was the high watermark of American industry. And so when Japan started exporting things after being rebuilt, a lot of those items were, poor quality. They were, back in the day, they were kind of the Harbor Freight of today. So things would come from Japan, and it really kind of was introduced. It was some of the first, apart from India, but first of the low quality tools. And so Granddad got a hold of some of those, and of course they weren't very good. And so he, coupled with his, there's an O-ring there. Boy, there's a lot of corrosion in there. Coupled with the poor quality. I have to magniflux this thing, and now I'm getting into the... Oh, I see the crack now. Sorry, we got to stop the repair. I got to finish the story. So with the war, the whole thing with the war and the cheap tools that they'd send over and different things. So he didn't have any time for that. Anything Japanese, no, he wanted nothing to do with it. There was even a town, if I remember right, I believe this is true, that Japan had such a bad name for some of the early stuff that they made that they named a town USA so they couldn't, or there was some sort of shenanigans that they did with that. But that's not the case anymore. Now Japan makes, I mean, arguably some of the finest engineers and the finest products. Honda being a perfect example, it's gold standard. What is better than, as far as gas generators, than a Honda? 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. These Honda pumps, they're motorcycles. I mean, they're just cars. Wonderful. And it took Granddad a long while, but he finally came around and started to appreciate the fine products that were coming out of Japan. And right before, I remember hunting, and he showed up and he'd bought a Honda generator. I was godsmacked. I almost fell off my seat when I saw him putting it in the truck. But he came to realize what good products they were. But he never did talk too much about it. But that was just men from a different era. I don't know. Let's take a look at this case. Good afternoon. What is it, Jack? It's Monday, and it's cold again. Feels like fall's here. I'm waiting for the maple leaves to start changing. But boy, fire season here is here with a vengeance. I'm actually got everything packed, sitting by the door, waiting for the call. It could go out for a day, could go out for 21 days. You never know, but could not go out at all. But I'm ready just in case. Man, I fully intended to get all of this in one video today, but man, I get to going and talking about my stories and get into tools, and pretty soon, well, I don't know where the time goes. It's just more fun this way. It's just more fun this way. There's lots of how-to stuff. This is always about, or what I liked is hanging out in the shop. This is how this is how it works. This is how it goes, hanging out at the shop, and it's a lot more fun than just the facts. It is, to me anyway. All right, so let's see, what do we got going on here? Nothing. That's it. Working on the pump. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next video.